Currently on my lunch break, and just wanted to make a brief video. It's in regards to a comment I had made on a video Dr. Michael Heiser had presented. Um, Michael Heiser of late memory. He was discussing about the rapture. I discussed Ephesians chapter 2 in a remark. I timestamped it, but I don't think my timestamp had anything to do with the comment I left on that video. But my comment was related to Ephesians chapter 2 and Gentiles, and how Gentiles have been brought nigh into the commonwealth of Israel by the blood of Christ. The Apostle Paul is speaking there, and he talks about how as Gentiles, that was his audience in that letter, you were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, aliens from the covenants of promise. And but now in Christ Jesus, you've been brought nigh by his blood into those things. Now, I think there's a difference between a commonwealth and being actually Israel. I do not believe Gentiles become Israel, but they are grafted into the commonwealth of Israel. The United States has commonwealths. Look at like Puerto Rico and places like that. Britain has, Great Britain has, or United Kingdom has commonwealths. So anyways, I was making a statement about that. There is a link or connection between what us Gentile Christians, Gentile believers go through and what the Jewish believers go through. Let me clarify. Jew and Gentile believers go through in addition to what the nation of Israel goes through. And someone had replied and saying, well, why would God do that to his bride? That seems cruel. Why would he beat his bride? It was the question. And yeah, he has a viewpoint that the body of Messiah is the bride of Christ, or God's bride. But you have to look at this in terms of the Exodus from Egypt, because in the Exodus, we know that this is a greater Exodus, and that Jesus is greater than Moses, but he's depicted as a greater Moses in that aspect. God didn't bring the plagues down onto his people. The plagues were brought down upon the Egyptians. It was Pharaoh who was persecuting Israel when they were in Egypt. They made it harsher on them. They had to produce more bricks. They had to do more work. It was harsh. It was Pharaoh who was bringing the oppression onto the Israelites. It wasn't God. God was bringing down the 10 plagues over the land of Egypt, upon Egypt. And he actually made provision for the Israelites to be passed over from the death angel when the death angel was coming to slay the firstborn son. So we have to look at it in terms of that. And even when you read the book of Revelation, you don't get that depiction that God is destroying his own people, because even though the term church is not shown, the word ecclesia, we definitely have the word the saints. That's also a term used for believers in the church. And church has a long history. It didn't start at Pentecost. Church is, the word in Greek is ecclesia. If you look at ecclesia, it's a Koine Greek word that was used in the Greek Septuagint, the LXX, the Septuagint, the one that was translated by 70 or 72 rabbis of the Hebrew scriptures, the whole Old Testament. It was translated into Greek for the Library of Alexandria. And this was done in the intertestamental period before the New Testament was being written. Notice that in Matthew chapter 16, when he brings up to Peter, on this rock I'll build my church, no one ever asked him what's a church, because ecclesia, they would have been familiar with it by reading the Septuagint. Oftentimes, the New Testament, the Gospels and in the book of Acts, they quote, and even the letters of Paul at times, they quote from the Septuagint version, the Greek version of the text, because it would have been popular back then. So that terminology goes back to ancient Israel. It was a translation from the Hebrew kahal, which was the congregation of Israel, into the Greek church. The thing about it, Jesus centralized or focused who this congregation of Israel is. It's made up of believing Jews and Gentiles who follow after him, that believe he was the Messiah. So there's like a remnant within the larger nation. There's a remnant of Jews within the larger nation of Israel that are part of the ecclesia. His ecclesia is not the same exact equivalent as the ecclesia of Israel. Ecclesia of Israel is just natural born or proselyte Jews, natural born proselyte Israelites. You can become a proselyte, and I talk about that in my 4-part series on who was a Jew, who are the Jews, or I can't remember what I titled it. You'll see it in there on my channel. We discuss that. I go through the scriptures how you can become a proselyte and take on the nationality of being Jewish. But the point is, even in the book of Revelation, you do not see God bringing judgments on the saints. So it's to have that notion in our mind that if we go through the tribulation period, God is beating us or judging us. That's not the case. You have to look at the Exodus. You have to look at the Exodus. And you just have to read Revelation and see, is God punishing the saints on earth that are still here during that time? No, they're beheaded for their witness and their testimony, but who is the one bringing that persecution onto them? It's not God. It's not. And he never promises us that we won't go through persecution. It's actually a promise that we will. And it's actually John chapter 17 in Jesus' high priestly prayer. He asked the Father, I pray not that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. So keep these things in mind and pray for me. Pray for me that I would be able to continue to understand these things and bring these forth to you. And if I'm wrong, that I'll be corrected. Okay? All right, we're going to end that. That's quick. Bye.